All right, welcome to the Awakening Parents Summit. I'm your host, Connie Lee, and today we have Lara Brekken. I'm just going to make sure that we're actually live. So just give me a second. Right, okay, awesome. So Lara is she is a certified professional coach who is passionate about helping people cultivate courage and live for soul. So welcome, Laura. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks, Connie. Thanks for having me.
Yes, I'm really excited about this talk. Today, we're talking about teaching your kids to follow their heart and to stay true to themselves. And I think this is just such an important topic because we're really taught not to do that at all. So
yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, like I feel like we're taught to live, I guess, from our heads, right? Like live in all of the beliefs and everything that have been built, like all the constructs that have been built up. And so then we get to this point in our lives where we're like, oh, well, that's not really what I want. So
yeah, exactly. I think that's where I came to. I know in my late 30s and early 40s, and that's kind of where I've been trying to unravel all of that and everything that I've been taught. And so for our kids, I think it's so important that we have a chance to do things differently now that we're a little bit more conscious and things are changing so rapidly in our world today that I think it's a perfect time for us to look at the paradigms that we grew up in and really question them. And are they going to work for our kids moving forward? Because the whole school system, the political system, everything else, that's so slow moving that all of those structures are still there and it's functioning under this old paradigm. And so as parents, like, how do we work within that while still helping our kids really live from their hearts and souls? It's a tricky thing.
Yeah. So let's rewind a little bit. And how about you share like your journey and kind of where you've been so that you're more able to help your daughter through this?
Okay, gosh. Where do I begin?
Yeah.
So my daughter Sophia is almost 16. She'll be 16 in 10 days. Her dad and I separated when she was 5. So I've been a single mom for quite a while now. And during that time, I went from being a stay-at-home mom to, oh God, I need a job now. How am I going to take care of my daughter and I? And so I ended up in a corporate job that paid great and was a very stable and secure job, but was not very fulfilling for me at the time. And some other, I was in a relationship I was unhappy in. And so I came to this point where, I don't know, it was like kind of a ding, 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 aha moment where, what am I doing? I'm living my life in this way that I thought I was supposed to be living it. And yet I was feeling so empty and unfulfilled and unhappy. And I was looking for the safety and security outside of myself and in the relationship and in the job, and kind of woke up one morning and went, oh my God, this is backwards. I'm doing this wrong. Okay, let's hit the reboot button. I want to start this over. And what do I need to do to build a life for myself that is more from the heart, that is true to who I really am as a person.
I just had a quick question to kind of go back to what you were saying about, I didn't know that you were a stay-at-home mom. And so how did you find that courage? Because that's something that you help people to cultivate. How did you find the courage to leave the relationship when you were relying on him to support you and your daughter?
Oh gosh. So what happened was that mm, he my ex-husband Josh, he went to Afghanistan. And so we after he got back, that's when I got pregnant about 6 months later, he had changed a lot. And because of he basically had PTSD. And just changed. He just changed. And so I came to a point where, okay, I need to either figure out how I'm going to stay in this relationship or I'm going to have to leave. And I came to the place where I need to make myself happy. I wasn't willing to leave. I wanted to keep my family together. Sophia was probably about 3 when I started really realizing that something had to change. And so I decided to start changing myself. And so meditation is where it all started for me, really. Wow. I started meditating for just a minute at a time and slowly built up 45 minutes to an hour. And through that whole process, what I found was courage, basically, in a way that I had never expected that. I was just looking for peace within because everything was chaotic on the outside. And that I think is ultimately what gave me the courage to just say, no, we were supposed to move to Germany together. And I said, no, I'm not going with you. Wow. I can't do this, can't get in a foreign country. With the way things are right now. And so that's what I'm going to do. So it was interesting. Meditation was very, very, very powerful for me in that way.
And what I find interesting is that we're having this conversation and you were already at that point following your heart. So modeling that for your daughter, even though it was a tough decision, right? Like leaving
Absolutely.
the relationship, right? So
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So keep going ahead with your story.
Okay. Let's see. So I ended up quitting my job and went on a 2-year journey of real soul searching. Lots of things didn't work out for me the way that I wanted them to, but it was really a rebuilding time, kind of a spiritual boot camp is how I put it. But the whole point of the whole experience was to find myself, really, and look at what it means to live from the heart, to live from the soul. And how do you do that when things aren't going your way? How do you do that when you're unemployed and you're a single mom? And it was a really scary time. I didn't get a job for 2 years after I quit, and it was a really scary time, but it had to happen, and it was totally and completely worth it. There were so many good things that came from it. During that time, I started my coaching business, and just it fueled the flames, I guess, even more of how important it is for us to live from that place of heart and soul. And especially our kids. I mean, with Sophia, I recognize that in junior high, they were telling her that she would never make money being an artist, so she needed to go to business school. She would come home and say, I'm going to business school. Like, you're doing what now? Why on earth did you do that? But right. I saw that she's getting all of this information coming from the outside. And I just am so passionate about that idea that we can make anything work in our lives that we want to. in whatever way that works for us. But as long as we're coming from that place of our true selves.
Right. So how do you navigate that conversation of her saying she's going to business school because I'm assuming she's like an artist and a creative that would excel more in that, right? So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I just talked to her about how that is what our society values in a way, is getting your MBA and moving on to be an accountant or whatever you do. And that works really well for some people. And there is that avenue of people who just want to make a bunch of money, and whatever. It's not necessarily about that, but it's about, what do you want to do? What do you love? You've been drawing and you've been designing outfits and things since you could hold a pencil, since you were 2.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. And why wouldn't you want to do that? Well, I don't think I'd be able to make a living doing that. Well, maybe you would. What if you are able to do that? Especially, we live in Los Angeles. And there's all sorts of opportunities here for that kind of a thing. But it's just that reframe, and it's the paradigm that we're into. You have to go to college, you have to get this GPA, or you're never gonna get into a college, and you have to do this and you have to do that. And I just think it's a worn out old paradigm that isn't working for us anymore. And it's up to us as parents to question all of that and unpack all of that and try to, obviously we want to give our kids the tools to make it through life and be successful, whatever that means for them. But at the same time, it's up to us to change that paradigm.
Right. Exactly. And I think too, with the evolution of tech, and I posted about this in the group earlier this month, I guess, about the evolution of tech, right? How do we prepare our kids for jobs that don't even exist? And a lot of people were saying, you don't prepare them for jobs, you prepare them for life, type of thing, right? To be able to change and to go with it, right? And I kind of think that there's kind of 2 paths that are going to open, where it's going to be the tech path, or it's going to be the heart-centered, creative, human side, right? Because even as humans, we're always going to need that like emotional support and everything, right? Sure. Or fashion designers, or whatever it is.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And to just expand on that, just teaching kids how to have an outlet for their creativity, because there's so much that we need in this world that we don't even know that we need it yet. Things are moving so fast. So what if we take each one of these kids and we teach them how to pull out that innate creativity that each one of them has inside of them, and it's going to show up uniquely for every single kid, but just letting them tap into that. My gosh, I can't even imagine what they're going to come up with, for environmental, and I mean, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, exactly. So what is it that your daughter, so you were saying that she likes to draw and do like fashion design. Yeah. What other kind of avenues is she exploring, or are you helping her to explore?
Well, it's actually really cool because a year and a half ago, when I moved to Huntington Beach, I got a job and had 2 weeks to decide where to live. And I hadn't spent any time in this area at all, and was looking primarily at 2 beach communities that were closest to where my office was going to be. I landed on Huntington Beach, enrolled her in 9th grade, and it turns out they have a performing arts program that people want to come from all over LA just to go to. It's a huge deal.
Wow.
So she next year she will be starting, and she has 2 options right now that she's interviewing for, basically, which is costume design and set design. Wow. And so that's going to be absolutely incredible. So she will get a taste of what those are and start to kind of hone in on what she really loves. She also loves doing makeup. So cosmetology might be a thing for her, having a career doing makeup, and maybe that'll be theater, maybe it'll be something else, I don't know. But these are all the things that just light her up and get her excited. On Netflix, they've had a couple of shows recently. One was a makeup one, another one was a fashion design one. And to watch her just light up, literally like light up the room. Oh my gosh, that's so cool. That's so exciting. I would do this and this and this. And this. That's what it's all about.
Wow, that's exciting.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
And then she can take that in whatever direction she wants. And as long as we're teaching our kids the tools to handle the toughness of life, the things that get thrown at us, the inevitable challenges in following a path like that. I think as long as you're doing what you love, it's not even a job anymore, you know, then it's just, it's you showing up and you get paid for it. And what's better than that? You know?
Exactly. So while you were kind of navigating your own journey for the couple of years that you were, you know, kind of navigating that all, how were you communicating that with Sophia?
That's a good question. Trying to remember. It was a little bit, we were in a little bit of a different place because she was in junior high and she was a lot more, she wanted her own alone time a lot. So it was one of those where she'd be in a room and I'd be begging her to come out and watch a movie with me, or, you know, something like that.
Right.
So it was a little bit different. Now we spend a lot more time together. It's interesting as she's gotten older, but I was honest with her about what I was doing, what I was going through. I really tried to just kind of let her know where I was at in a more matter-of-fact way, and just in a way that you know, sometimes things worth fighting for don't come easy. But it doesn't mean you should quit, and it doesn't mean that it's wrong. Everything, really, what I try to teach her is that there's not good or bad. We don't have to judge these situations. They just are, and we can learn and grow from everything that we go through. And actually, we learn and grow a heck of a lot more when we're going through the really tough times than the really good times. And so it's how we always have a choice as to how we're going to respond to those challenges. And that happens in anything, and in school as well. You know, it's we always have that opportunity to choose.
Oh, I love it. So if you could go back, so knowing what you know now, would you do things differently?
Oh gosh, that's a tough question, you know, because I don't think I would ever encourage anybody to up and quit cold turkey in the way that I did. Right. But I also know that was what was necessary for me at that moment. I kind of, I think I needed that accelerated period of growth to get where I am today. But yeah, I mean, looking back on it, I kind of wish I would have worked harder at I don't think so, Connie. I honestly, I don't even think I can say that I wouldn't have done it, because knowing where I was at the time, I was so stuck in the way that I was thinking, and I just don't think there was any other way for me to get out of it without pushing myself out of it. And then all of the awareness that came from it, because I'm back. The job that I finally got is basically the same thing that I was doing. So I'm back in the same thing, which was really tough for me to swallow. As thankful as I was to have the job, the safety and security, it was really hard for me to swallow. Oh my God, after all of that, here I am, I'm back in the same place. But the thing is that it allowed me to see in a completely different way. I'm experiencing the same type of job in a completely new way, from a completely new consciousness level. And I wouldn't have been able to do that before. And that, I think, is a gift in itself, because we don't get a chance to do that very often. It's kind of like I have a second chance. And it, not to say this is where I want to stay for the rest of my life, but I can see the value in it. And I had to work through that a lot, because it was, oh, look at that, the big F word, the big failure. I wanted to be able to have this great story of success. Look, I had the courage and I jumped off the cliff, and look at how amazing everything turned out. And I'm still in the middle of it. There's still going to be a punchline that's going to be amazing. And even where I'm at right now, I've created things in my life that I've tried to create for a really long time, and I was able to do that. I'm living a few blocks from the beach, which has always been my dream, in a little beach bungalow. It's always been my dream. There are things, amazing things that have come from it, and Sophia's been able to watch this, and she sees that I didn't crumble under the pressure. Awesome. And that that you can get to the other side, and you can go through these really hard times, but as long as you stay strong and resilient and determined, and as long as you experience everything from your heart, right? As long as you don't judge it, there's never failure. There isn't. They're just experiences that we get through, and we're stronger because of it, always. Yeah. And she gets to see that too. And she's coming to that place where, at one point she said, I'm really happy that you are encouraging me to do what I want to do.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. And it's interesting, because I titled this "How to Talk to Your Kids About Following Their Heart," but really you modeled it for her, through all of the trials and tribulations. She got to see it in a different, not just you saying it.
Right. Right. Which I think is a big part of it. Not that anybody needs to go and, elect that kind of experience. But in everyday life, I think we have a chance to model that for our kids. The courage to take chances, the courage to follow our heart, even when maybe somebody else from the outside is pressuring us not to. They watch us, and they learn from what we do, from how we behave. And the big thing that has been running through my mind constantly lately is, who do you want to be? Who do you want to be? It's not, I am who I am today because of my past, but who do I want to be in the future? And how do I be that person right now, so that I can create those things in my life? And I keep that in mind for her as well. How do I want to model this for her, so that she can see that that's what this is about. It's, life can be so much fun. We just got to have the courage to go for it. And if I can get her to start living that way from the beginning, then hopefully she doesn't have, she's going to have challenges no matter what, of course, but hopefully she doesn't have to do the unraveling process that I have to do, and that a lot of people I know my age are going through. It's like, oh my God, I've been taught all this stuff, but none of it has been beneficial for me. Now I have to try to get rid of all that programming and start over. Who am I? Who do I want to be? how am I going to create the life that I want to create when I have this foundation telling me that it's all wrong? So, you know, I think if we can help our kids move forward in that way, then they're starting ahead of us. And that's going to mean
Exactly.
amazing things for our world.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. So we've touched a little bit on authenticity, but I think that what I'm curious about is how do you help her to navigate when life, you know, and all these outside influences are trying to tell her not to be that, right? Like her friends and like obviously her teachers and stuff. What is
Mhm.
it that, how do you help her to stay true to that, to who she is, instead of getting sucked into like, well, the popular girls are doing this, so I'm going to continue, I'm going to do that and jump on board?
Um, to some extent, I'm a little bit lucky there because she's never really been a follower. She's always kind of done her own thing.
Nice.
She came out that that way, her own way of doing things. So that has not been something that I have had to really deal with. But I mean, to some extent, she's still getting those messages, and she still talks to me about it. But I really try to bring her back into well, what do you want? I mean, I just continually bring her back to herself. What does your heart tell you? Does that speak to you? Does that sound like something that you want to do? So you hate math. You have struggled with it forever. It's not your thing because you're an artist. That's the way your brain works. Do you really want to go down that road? Ooh, you know, it's just asking those questions. And I think that's one of the biggest ways that coaching has helped me with her, is just learning how to do those open-ended questions so that she'll come up with the answers on her own. Because that's a great way, because then I'm not one more person shoving things down her throat. It's I'm just asking her questions. Well, how would you feel if you had to do math every day? Or how would you feel if you were sitting in a corporate job and you had, you know, these kinds of responsibilities, or these kinds of, or how would you feel if you were able to go to work and just sketch and draw? And what if you were to work on a movie? Or what if, you know, it's just asking questions so that she can kind of think about it and come up with those answers on her own.
Right. Okay, so I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here. So for the non-coach parents in the group that may not know how to frame an open-ended question, because a lot of us say like, how was your day? And our kids say good, right? Or did you have a good day? Yes, right? So
Right.
can you maybe elaborate on asking open-ended questions with this topic?
Yeah. So it really is just doing the how would you feel about this? Or how what are your thoughts about this? So it's basically an open-ended question. It's just a question that they can't answer with a yes or a no, because then that's closed.
Right.
The challenge is when you start getting the I don't knows. Because I get that a lot from my daughter. Well, I don't know. Okay. Well, then I try to reframe it and come up with another way of asking that question. And sometimes it still is, it's a dead end, but the seeds are planted. You know, when you ask it, even if they're saying I don't know, a lot of times I have discovered that she's thinking about it. She just doesn't want to answer at that time. So, okay, specifics though. Yeah, I mean, just like I was saying, I guess. So how would you feel if, how would it feel for you to have a desk job where you're sitting at a computer and you're filling out spreadsheets all day? How would that feel for you? Oh, well, I don't know. It might not feel very good. Well, what do you think? What do you think your day would look like if that's the choice that you made? And then, you know, we can go down that road. Okay. Well, now let's look at what it would look like. Say you're designing costumes for the Pantages in downtown LA, where they have a lot of the Broadway shows. How would that feel for you? What do you think your day would look like? Oh, well, I could do this and this and this. Okay, well, so how does that one feel compared to how this other one feels? You know, it's asking those questions so that she can come up. So I'm not saying don't do that. That's a stupid choice.
Right. Yeah.
You don't want to do that. You're never gonna this. You know, and even when it comes to money, I mean, if she just wants to paint and sell her paintings or whatever, and she's going back and forth between doing something like that or having something that has benefits, and I can definitely vouch for the value of these things, especially now. But the important thing there again is asking those questions. Okay, well, you could go this way where it might be a little bit more difficult to have that steady income coming in, and how would that feel to you, and how would that look, and what if that was a little bit harder than this, and so by asking those questions, they're comparing it and they're making kind of that choice of, this one might be a little bit harder, but it's what I love and it's what lights me up. And I would rather live in a little studio apartment and do this than make $200,000 doing something I hate over here, having to work 70 hours a week.
Yeah.
It's just sort of asking those questions to kind of lead them to really discover what's important to them. And then it helps them make an empowered choice and be able to take responsibility for that too. So it's not you shoving something down their throat saying you have to take this $200,000 job over here. And then later on they're like, oh, well, my parents told me to do it. And,
Yeah.
they're able to make those choices on their own. They're able to take some of that responsibility. And you're saying, hey, I'm going to be here to support you through it. And either way.
Right. You know what I find challenging is that I see that my daughter is she's very heart-centered, very kind of connected. But she's getting a little bit lost in the things that other kids are doing. And so when I try to have these conversations with her, I have them from this place of I know the answer to this question, right? And if you don't answer it the way I want you to answer it, we're going to keep, right? And so
yes, I've been there, done that. Let me save you the problem, the issues and the heartache, and
yeah. And so it's taking that step back, right? And not in our own best interest, but in their best interest, right? So
right, which is so hard to do. It really is, because we're coming from our own experiences. And we don't want to see them hurt, and we don't want to see them sad, and we don't want to see them go through anything hard, and we just want to make it all easy.
Yes.
That's how I feel anyway. Let me make this easier for you.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. I will tell you what you're going to do.
Yes, exactly. Right. But in doing that, we're not really allowing them to have that experience and to work through it. And again, I think as parents, the best place we can come from is just that place of asking the questions. Well, how does it make you feel when you're around that person? It doesn't make me feel good. It makes me feel really sad. Okay, well, what are your choices? What are your choices then? Well, I don't know. Well, maybe one choice might be to not talk to that person anymore. Well, how does that feel? Well, that doesn't feel good. Okay, then another choice might be to do this. Another, offering all these things. Well, how does that feel? What do you think would make you happiest right now? And a lot of times they might not come to the choice that you want them to make, which is stop talking to her. For God's sake, she's toxic. But oh gosh, it's so hard. I think it's so hard as a parent to watch that happen. But through through the asking the questions, just asking and asking and asking, and letting them, through the questions, think about it. And again, even if they're not answering it, they're still thinking about how they would want to answer it.
Right.
And they'll probably go into the room, and they might come to that conclusion, just by asking. But asking the questions, being there for them to support them through it, not cutting off the communication by saying, well, you can't do this or you can't do that, because then they're probably going to do it anyway and just not tell you,
Right.
so just remaining open. And I know, I've had a situation with Sophia a lot. She's had this one friend that I really don't care for. But she has continued to talk to me about it, because I have been from that place. And I'll tell her, I really hate to see you go through this. I really hate to see you so sad right now. I really hate to see you be treated this way. But ultimately, it's up to you to make the decision and the choice. How long do you want to deal with this? It's up to you. We just have a lot of those types of conversations where I talk her through it, and I'll kind of lead her in direction through questions. And I will tell her, this is what I would hope to see. But ultimately put that choice on her, so that she can experience that, and she will be empowered from it one way or the other. Because eventually she's probably going to get to that point where she's going to go, you know what, I've had enough. And she'll learn a lot more from that. But it's in the meantime, I think it's really hard to watch.
That is a good point. We, like you said earlier, like we learn most through our like tough times, right? And so, yes.
Yeah.
That's
as a parent, it's so hard to allow that to happen in that way. We just like to cut it off and stop that. But I mean, if you look at us as adults going through relationship issues,
right?
Yeah. I mean, they're our best teachers. Ultimately, they really are. Whether we're talking about as children learning how to navigate those types of friendships, or early boyfriend girlfriend things, whatever, and into adulthood. I mean, they are our best teachers, and they help us grow in a way that I don't think anything else can.
Yes, I love that. Exactly.
Learning them to be empowered when they're young and to make empowered choices, I think, is probably one of the best things we can do, so that they can move on to do that as adults. I didn't learn how to do that when I was young, so I'm a little late to the party. But we're working on it.
Is there anything else that you want to say about like the authenticity or modeling, following your heart, that we haven't touched on?
Let me look at my notes here. I think we've touched on pretty much everything, but I do think, just to reiterate that life is about experience. And I think as parents, it's so hard for us, because we want our kids to succeed, and we want them to do well and be happy and healthy and all of those things. But that them being able to move forward from the heart, I think it trumps everything else. So it trumps the straight A's. It trumps the getting into UCLA. It trumps,
Right.
I think as long as they can tap into their heart, it's going to affect their career. It's going to affect their relationships. It's going to affect their happiness level. It's going to affect all of that, which in turn affects everybody around them and the world. And I think that is the key over anything else.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Thank you. And so where can people find you?
larabrekken.com. And
Awesome.
I'm on Facebook and Instagram under True to Soul Life Coaching.
Okay. This was awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Connie.
All
It's
right.
been a lot of fun.
And thank you to everyone who watched, and let us know if you have any questions and we'll get back to you.